There's a conversation happening in every interaction between men and women that most men never learn to hear. It's not spoken in words. It doesn't follow the rules of verbal communication. It exists in a realm that predates language itself, encoded in gestures, postures, and micro-movements that reveal what the conscious mind might choose to hide. This is the language of the body, and for men who never learn to read it, opportunities pass unnoticed, connections fade before they begin, and genuine interest gets mistaken for polite indifference. The challenge isn't that women are deliberately obscure or playing games. The challenge is that men and women often communicate attraction differently. While men tend to be more direct and verbal about their interest, women frequently communicate through subtlety and implication. This isn't manipulation or mystery for its own sake. It's a reflection of different social conditioning, different stakes in the mating game, and different ways of managing vulnerability. A woman who shows interest too overtly risks rejection, judgment, or unwanted attention. So she develops a more nuanced vocabulary, one that allows her to signal availability while maintaining plausible deniability. For men who haven't been taught this vocabulary, the result is confusion. They misread friendliness as romantic interest. They miss genuine signals of attraction. They hesitate when they should act and pursue when they should retreat. Not because they're socially incompetent, but because they're trying to read a language they were never taught to understand. The good news is that this language, while subtle, follows consistent patterns. Once you understand the underlying principles, the signals become clear. The architecture of attraction. Signals. Before diving into specific signals, it's worth understanding why body language matters so profoundly in the realm of attraction. Human beings evolved to communicate non-verbally long before we developed complex language. Our ancestors needed to assess potential mates, identify threats, and navigate social hierarchies without the benefit of words. The systems that govern these assessments are ancient, deeply embedded in our neurology, and largely automatic. When a woman feels attraction, her body responds before her conscious mind has fully processed the feeling. Hormones shift. The nervous system activates. Subtle changes occur in posture, facial expression, and behavior. These changes aren't deliberate performances. They're involuntary responses to the neurochemical cascade that accompanies attraction. This is what makes body language so reliable. While words can be carefully chosen and controlled, involuntary physical responses reveal truth that the conscious mind might prefer to conceal. The key to reading these signals accurately is understanding that you're not looking for conscious communication. You're looking for unconscious revelation. A woman might not even be fully aware that she's signaling interest. Her conscious mind might still be evaluating whether she likes you, whether pursuing something would be wise, whether the timing is right. But her body has already made an assessment, and it's communicating that assessment through channels she doesn't fully control. The primal opening. Space, known posture, and barriers. The first and most fundamental category of attraction signals involves how a woman positions her body in relation to you and the space between you. This is the foundation upon which all other signals build, because without this basic receptiveness, the more intimate signals won't appear. When a woman is not attracted or not interested in deeper connection, her body creates distance and maintains barriers. This is pure survival instinct. For most of human history, women have been physically vulnerable to male aggression. The default stance toward unfamiliar men, or men she's not attracted to, is protective. Arms cross over the torso, shielding vital organs. Legs cross, creating a closed position. Objects get placed between her body and yours, a purse held against the chest, a drink positioned as a barrier, and a phone gripped as both shield and potential escape route. These aren't conscious calculations. They're automatic defensive postures that signal she's not open to vulnerability or intimacy with you. Her body is creating physical and psychological distance, maintaining the boundary between stranger and potential intimate. When attraction is present, this architecture shifts. The transformation might be gradual or sudden, but it's unmistakable once you learn to see it. Arms uncross. The torso opens, no longer protected by limbs or objects. Her body rotates to face you more directly, even if she's in a group conversation with others. The shift is her nervous system, down-regulating the threat response, deciding that you're safe, that vulnerability is acceptable, that distance can be reduced. Pay particular attention to what happens with physical objects. A woman who's interested will actively remove barriers. The purse that was clutched in her lap gets set on the floor or placed on a nearby chair. The drink that was held protectively gets set down on the table. She might adjust her position so that nothing sits between her torso and yours. These movements create what's called open body language, and they're an invitation to deeper connection. Posture tells you even more. When attraction is present, a woman's posture often becomes more expansive and oriented. She might straighten her spine, pull her shoulders back, lift her chest slightly. This isn't vanity or performance, it's an evolutionary display. An open, upright posture signals health, confidence, and receptiveness. It's the opposite of the hunched, a protective stance that says, stay away. Research has shown that both men and women find these expansive postures more attractive because they convey a sense of confidence and openness to connection. You might also notice subtle displays of the feminine form, a slight arch in the lower back, weight shifted to one hip, creating an asymmetrical stance that accentuates her figure. These aren't always conscious choices. They're ways the body naturally presents itself when the subconscious goal is attraction. The key is recognizing the shift from closed to open that happens in your presence. If she's closed off when you arrive and gradually opens up as the conversation progresses, that's signal. If she's open with everyone and closes slightly when interacting with you, that's also signal, just a different one. The window to neural arousal, eye contact and pupil response. If body positioning is the foundation of attraction signals, eye contact is the primary channel for more intense communication. The eyes reveal information that's nearly impossible to fake because much of what happens in the eyes is controlled by the autonomic nervous system, which operates below the level of conscious control. The most reliable signal here is pupil dilation. When we encounter something or someone we find attractive or arousing, the brain releases a cascade of neurochemicals, primarily dopamine and norepinephrine. These chemicals activate the sympathetic nervous system, which, among many other effects, causes the pupils to dilate. This is pure biology. A woman can control her facial expression, carefully manage her words, and moderate her behavior, but she cannot consciously control the diameter of her pupils. In practical terms, if you're in a conversation under consistent lighting and you notice her pupils seem unusually large, you're seeing direct evidence of neural arousal. Her brain is releasing chemicals associated with attraction, excitement, and engagement. Of course, pupil size is affected by many factors. Lighting is the most obvious, but fatigue, certain medications, and strong emotions of any kind can also cause dilation. This is why pupil dilation is most powerful when combined with other signals in a cluster. But when it appears alongside other indicators of interest, it's one of the most honest signals you'll receive. Beyond pupil response, the pattern of eye contact itself communicates volumes. In most social interactions, eye contact follows predictable patterns. We look at people when they're speaking, glance away when we're thinking or uncomfortable, maintain moderate levels of contact that feel neither intrusive nor distant. When attraction is present, these patterns change. Extended eye contact becomes common. She holds your gaze for a beat or two longer than social convention requires. This extended contact creates a sense of intimacy and intensity that goes beyond normal conversation. It's a way of saying, without words, that she's fully engaged with you, that she wants this connection to deepen. You might notice what researchers call the coy gaze. She looks at you, holds eye contact while smiling genuinely, then looks away or down before looking back. This look-away, look-back pattern is classic flirtation behavior found across cultures. It communicates interest while maintaining a playful, non-threatening quality. The eyes also reveal what someone is paying attention to. If you're in a group setting and her gaze consistently returns to you, even when others are speaking, that's meaningful. If she tracks your movements when you leave and return, if she makes eye contact across the room, these are indicators that her attention is focused on you specifically, not just on the social situation generally. The dance of synchrony, mirroring, and behavioral alignment. One of the most fascinating aspects of human connection is the tendency to unconsciously mimic those we feel rapport with. Psychologists call this behavioral synchrony, or the chameleon effect, and it's a powerful indicator of connection that operates almost entirely below conscious awareness. When two people are in sync, when there's genuine rapport, attraction, or deep engagement, their bodies begin to mirror each other. One person leans forward, and shortly after, the other leans forward too. One crosses their legs, the other follows. One gestures with their hands in a particular way, the other adopts similar gestures. This isn't conscious mimicry. It's an automatic process governed by mirror neurons in the brain, specialized cells that fire both when we perform an action and when we observe someone else performing that action. Mirror neurons are part of our empathy and connection systems, and they help us understand others by internally simulating their actions and states. When we feel strong rapport with someone, this mirroring system becomes highly active, causing us to unconsciously align our behavior with theirs. The result is a subtle dance of coordination that both reflects connection and deepens it. Mirroring creates rapport, and rapport leads to more mirroring, creating a positive feedback loop. In the context of attraction, this synchrony is particularly revealing. If a woman is mirroring your body language, it's evidence that her brain has identified you as someone worth aligning with. Her nervous system is creating resonance with yours. This can manifest in many ways. You lean back in your chair, she leans back moments later. You take a sip of your drink, she reaches for hers. You rest your chin on your hand. Now she adopts a similar contemplative posture. You might even notice vocal matching. If you speak in low, calm tones, her voice might soften to match yours. The power of this signal lies in its difficulty to fake. Maintaining behavioral synchrony throughout a long conversation requires genuine rapport. It's nearly impossible to consciously mirror someone for an extended period without that connection feeling forced or awkward. When you see consistent mirroring, you're seeing evidence of subconscious alignment. You can test for this subtly. While maintaining natural conversation, make a casual gesture. Touch your face, adjust your hair, shift your posture. Then observe. If within the next minute or so she makes a similar gesture, you're likely seeing mirroring in action. The key is not to turn this into a game or to make it obvious. The mirroring only works as an indicator when it's genuinely unconscious. Vulnerability displayed, self-touch and preening behaviors. When a woman experiences attraction, nervous energy builds. This energy needs an outlet, and it often expresses itself through specific self-touching behaviors that serve dual purposes. On one level, they're self-soothing gestures that manage the mild anxiety of attraction. On another level, they're preening behaviors that enhance her attractiveness and draw your attention to specific areas of her body. These behaviors are deeply rooted in evolutionary psychology. Many of them serve to highlight features associated with health, youth, and fertility, the unconscious markers that influence mate selection across cultures and throughout history. Hair touching is perhaps the most common and recognizable of these behaviors. When a woman plays with her hair, twirling it around her finger, running her hands through it, flipping it over her shoulder, she's engaging in ancient preening behavior. Healthy, lustrous hair has always been a signal of youth and vitality. By drawing attention to it, she's unconsciously highlighting these qualities. Hair play also releases pheromones and frames the face, drawing focus to her eyes and smile. If you notice a marked increase in hair touching during your conversation, especially if it coincides with eye contact, it's worth noting. Neck touching is another powerful signal. When a woman tilts her head to expose her neck or gently touches her throat and collarbone area, she's displaying vulnerability. And the neck is one of the most vulnerable parts of the body. It houses vital blood vessels and the windpipe. Exposing it requires trust. In the context of attraction, neck exposure and touching serves as a nonverbal message. I feel safe enough with you to expose this delicate area, and I'm drawing your attention to a zone associated with intimacy and sensuality. Perhaps the most direct signals involve the mouth. Lip licking, lip biting, or gently touching the lips all draw attention to one of the most sensual parts of the face. Some of this is physiological. Arousal can cause a slightly dry mouth, prompting lip licking that brings moisture and color to the lips, making them appear fuller and more inviting. Biting the lower lip often indicates nervous tension, but in a flirtatious context, it serves to focus your attention on her mouth and communicates a kind of restrained desire. Watch her hands more generally. She might stroke her own arm, trace her fingers along her wrist, or rest a hand on her thigh. These self-touches can be ways of demonstrating comfort with her own body and sensuality in your presence. They're also, on a subtle level, mapping out sensitive areas and inviting you to imagine your own touch in those places. The critical factor with all these signals is context and frequency. Everyone touches their hair sometimes, bites their lip occasionally, or adjusts their posture. What matters is whether these behaviors increase dramatically when she's interacting with you specifically. If she's playing with her hair constantly during your conversation but wasn't doing so before you arrived, that's meaningful. If she's holding eye contact while touching her neck, that's a cluster of signals reinforcing each other. The ultimate test: proximity and physical touch. The final and perhaps most decisive category of attraction signals involves physical space and touch. This is where attraction moves from the realm of possibility into the territory of clear intent. When a woman voluntarily reduces the physical distance between you and finds ways to initiate touch, she's providing the clearest possible signal that she's comfortable with intimacy and interested in deepening the connection. Every person maintains an invisible boundary around their body known as personal space. The size of this bubble varies by culture and context, but the principle is universal. We only allow trusted, intimate people into our closest zones. And the space immediately around our bodies, roughly within arm's reach, is reserved for people we have close relationships with. Strangers and acquaintances stay further back. When someone enters this intimate zone uninvited, we feel uncomfortable and instinctively retreat. When a woman voluntarily enters your intimate space, she's making a statement. She's saying non-verbally that she trusts you and desires closeness. This can happen in several ways. The most obvious is leaning in during conversation. If she consistently leans her body toward you, particularly her torso and head, she's literally trying to get closer. This is especially meaningful if it happens when there's no acoustic reason for it. If she's leaning in despite being able to hear you clearly, proximity itself is the goal. Positioning is another tell. In group settings, notice where she chooses to sit or stand. If she consistently places herself in your orbit, next to you, across from you, or positioned so she can easily make eye contact with you, she's voting with her feet. Even more revealing is body orientation. A person can be physically facing one direction, while their torso, hips, and feet point toward the person they're actually interested in. If her lower body is oriented toward you, even when her head is turned elsewhere, her body is revealing her true focus. Touch is the culmination of all proximity signals. The first touch between two people who are attracted to each other is a significant psychological threshold. It transforms the interaction from purely verbal and visual into physical. Because of this significance, that first touch is usually tentative and deniable. She might lightly touch your arm while laughing at something you said. And her hand might brush against yours as you both reach for something. Her knee might make contact with yours under a table. These touches are brief and can be written off as accidental, which gives her plausible deniability if the touch isn't welcomed. But these accidental touches are almost never truly accidental. They're tests. She's gauging your reaction. Do you pull away or lean in? Do you reciprocate the touch or ignore it? Each small touch that's received positively gives her permission to escalate slightly. The touches might become more frequent, last a little longer, or progress to more intimate areas. A hand that lingers on your shoulder, knees that remain in contact, her arm brushing against yours as you walk. These escalations indicate growing comfort with physical intimacy. Note the proximity test is powerful because it's unambiguous. Words can be misinterpreted. Even eye contact and body language can be read multiple ways. But when a woman is consistently reducing distance and initiating physical contact, the signal is clear. She's comfortable with you in her intimate space and interested in exploring that intimacy further. The cluster principle: reading signals in context. The single most important principle in reading body language is this: never rely on a single signal in isolation. Any individual behavior can have multiple explanations. She might cross her arms because she's cold, not because she's closed off. She might touch her neck because it itches, not because she's displaying vulnerability. She might lean in because she literally can't hear you over background noise, not because she desires proximity. The power of body language reading comes from observing clusters of signals that appear together and reinforce each other. When you see 3, 4, or 5 signals all pointing in the same direction, you can be confident in your interpretation. She's leaning in while mirroring your posture, while maintaining extended eye contact, while touching her hair, while laughing at your jokes. That's a powerful cluster indicating genuine attraction. Each individual signal might be ambiguous, but together they create a clear picture. Equally important is looking for changes in behavior. The baseline matters. If she's naturally expressive and tactile with everyone, her touching you might not be particularly significant. But if she's generally reserved and becomes more animated specifically with you, that change is meaningful. You're looking for the delta, the difference between how she behaves generally and how she behaves with you specifically. Context also matters enormously. A woman who maintains open body language at a professional networking event is probably just being professionally friendly. The same open posture during a one-on-one coffee after you've been texting for days carries different weight. Environmental factors influence interpretation. A crowded venue forces physical proximity that might be voluntary in a spacious setting. Alcohol lowers inhibitions and makes some signals more pronounced, but potentially less reliable. The goal isn't to become a robotic analyst, checking off indicators on a mental list. The goal is to develop holistic awareness, to feel the overall dynamic and recognize when the constellation of signals suggests genuine interest versus polite friendliness. This awareness develops with practice and attention. The more you consciously observe body language in various contexts, the more intuitive your reading becomes. The path forward, from recognition to connection. Understanding these signals is valuable, but only if it leads to better connections rather than manipulation. The purpose of learning this language isn't to gain unfair advantage or to trick women into attraction. The purpose is to see what's actually happening rather than what you hope is happening or fear is happening. It's about reducing misunderstanding and missed opportunities. When you can accurately read interest, several things improve. You gain confidence to act on genuine signals rather than hesitating and letting moments pass. You avoid pursuing women who aren't interested, saving both of you from awkwardness. You can calibrate your own behavior appropriately, escalating when signals are positive, backing off when they're not. You stop living in your head trying to decode every word and overanalyze every interaction, because you can read the more honest language being spoken beneath the words. This doesn't mean every interaction becomes simple or that body language gives you perfect information. Human beings are complex. Signals can be mixed. People can feel conflicted attraction, interested but uncertain, drawn to someone but knowing it's not wise to pursue. The body language might show attraction even when the person has decided not to act on it. Your job isn't to override someone's choices, but to understand the truth of the situation so you can make your own informed decisions. The real skill is learning to see these patterns without becoming obsessed with them. To notice body language the way you notice tone of voice. It's part of the complete communication picture, not the only thing worth paying attention to. The most successful interactions happen when you're present, engaged, and authentic, with body language awareness informing your calibration rather than dominating your attention. Start by simply observing. Watch people in coffee shops, bars, professional settings. See if you can identify these 5 categories of signals in action. Notice when someone shifts from closed to open body language. Watch for pupil dilation and extended eye contact. Or look for mirroring between people who seem connected. Observe self-touch behaviors and when they increase. Pay attention to who moves closer to whom and who initiates touch. The more you train your perception, the more natural and automatic it becomes. The language of attraction is ancient, universal, and remarkably consistent. Once you learn to read it, you're seeing a dimension of human interaction that was always there, but invisible to you before. And that sight gives you a profound advantage, not over women, but over your own confusion and uncertainty. You stop guessing and start knowing. And from that knowledge, real connection becomes possible.